Let's talk the story of a socket. I described this in class. What you see before you right now is a 3/4 inch socket and a 19 millimeter socket. If you were doing the performance test for me on this particular one, you would completely describe it as a 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch drive. If you remember, that was the reason it's called 1/2 inches. It's a 1/2 inch diameter. It takes a 1/2 inch ratchet to mount this socket on. So it's a 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch drive, 6-point socket. It's not a deep well, so we're not going to say it's a deep well. We're just going to call it a socket. This one was 19 millimeter. Is a 19 millimeter socket, and it too is a 1/2 inch drive, 6-point socket. I get to 6 points by just counting them up. If you forget, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, this is where we start mixing apples with oranges, because somebody will come up and ask, Mr. Bradford, what is the metric equivalent to a 3/4 inch? And I'm going to tell you, there's not one. And then I'm going to ask the question, what type of bolt or fastener are you trying to remove or install? So that brings me to identification of the fastener. So how do we do that? This is a hex bolt, and this particular one is an SI or metric bolt. Now I'm going to show you how I know that, if I can get this thing to focus. If you look real close, come on, focus in here. Phooey. It's trying. It's still difficult for you to see what I'm seeing. I'll try to get it up here a little bit closer. Maybe it'll finally focus in. Jeepers creepers. Phooey. Alright, you can almost see it. If I keep moving around, it tries to focus on that, but then it goes back to something else that I'm holding here. But that is a number, and that number is 8.8. If I see a number on the head of a fastener, such as a hex bolt, which this is, then I know that that's a metric fastener. So there's no reason, even though this metric fastener will go into this 3/4 inch socket, I wouldn't want to use that, because I take the risk of rounding off the edges of the bolt, and then I got real problems. It's going to be difficult to remove the fastener, and it costs us extra time, and we can't afford it as we're technicians, because we're already being paid for performance and not for the amount of time that we spend on a job, because of the flat rate. So I would select the proper socket, which is a 19 millimeter. Sure, it'll go in both, as you can see here, but there's enough difference in the fit. It's kind of like this. You go out and you want to buy a particular pair of shoes, and so you get to the store and they sure enough got them. You wear a 9.5. Guess what? They only have it in a 10. So you just can't wait. Don't have the time to wait. So I'm going to go ahead and buy this size 10, which is a little large for me. And guess what? You wind up with a blister on your heel, because the shoe really it doesn't fit. So same thing with sockets. This don't do it. Identify the bolt. So with that said, how do we identify the SAE standard or US customary? It's very easy. Those bolts have hash marks on them right around the edge. There's one that don't count. That's just a symbol. Don't worry about it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good grief. 1, 2, 3. Now, always we will add 2. I wrote that down. So there's 3 hash marks. Add that up, 5. That's a grade 5. And by the way, on that metric bolt that I just showed you, that's an 8.8. That is not a grade. That's a property class. And but yes, I'll tell you, as far as strength of the bolt and hardness of it, the two are about equal. A grade 5 and a property class 8.8 are very similar. Not exact, but there's some similarity out there. All right, let's look at one more so that we get this being able to tell. Here's another U.S. customary, and this one here's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hash marks around it. And so that one would be 6 hash marks, add 2. So that's going to be a grade 8. And I'm not going to write grade down again. That's how you figure out what the grade is. Yes, in metric they have one that's has a property class, and this one's really hard to see. I don't know if you can see it. I can, but that's because I'm right behind the camera. Right here, the number is 10.9. Let me write that down. 10.9. So that's almost equal to grade 8. Not quite the same, but if you look at them, they are similar color. So that gives us some little hint that these are kind of sort of the same. Just like those are of equal color. They're both kind of silver. So hopefully with that you can start identifying the bolt that you're using, and that way you can select the right tool. And that's what we're after here, selecting the right tool.